Mums with Hustle podcast, episode 542.
Welcome to the Mums with Hustle podcast, where you'll discover everyday mum entrepreneurs killing it in their industry. Learn the secrets you can replicate to create your own success with your host, Tracy Harris.
Hey there, friends. So welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for hanging out. My name is Tracy Harris. I've been doing these podcast episodes every week, delivered to you on a Monday for the past 10 and a half years. How cool is that? So if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. I would love for you to join the podcast community and give me a follow on Instagram. Tracy Harris Co is the handle. That's the place to go. But this podcast exists to support women in starting, growing, and scaling a digital business that works around their life, that values their lifestyle, because what the heck, what is the point of having a business if it is overtaking your life? And around here, we do not believe that you need to suffer your way to freedom. We believe in intentionally creating work weeks where freedom is baked in from the very beginning, where we are working on our businesses with purpose, but at the same time, we are not doing so from a place of burnout or from an empty cup. We do it the freedom-filled way, and we do it through habits such as my Fresh framework, which sees us not just getting wealthier as our businesses grow, but actually becoming hotter, happier, healthier, better relationships, all of those beautiful, juicy things along the way. So we do business differently around here compared to the masses, and we live a damn good life. So on this episode, I wanted to chat to you about the concept of authenticity. Now, I feel like, I'm just going to take a stab in the dark, but it would have been around 2016 that I actually had a word of the year, and I have one every year, and I usually do an episode at the beginning of the year on my word for the year, but I think it was 2016, and my word of the year was authentic and authenticity. And the reason I chose that word, or rather that word chose me, is because I was at a period of my life where I felt like up until that point, because I was about 31 at that time, up until that point, I really had lived my life based on what other people told me I should be doing, based on someone else's plan, someone else's idea of what success is, very limited to my upbringing, the examples of people and work and not even business that I saw around me. I don't come from an entrepreneurial background, certainly not a digital entrepreneurial background. And so I very much just was a good girl. I was a perfect good girl that nailed school and then went on to nail it at university, then went on to get a permanent position in my career as a teacher very early on. And then within a 5-year period, I was promoted to executive level leadership, which was very uncommon. You had to do a minimum of 5 years teaching experience. Yes, I was a teacher. In the classroom before you could even get a middle management role. I skipped that and I went straight to executive leadership after 5 years. So that was pretty rare, and my ego really loved it. However, it was not my life by design. It was a life that got a lot of praise and applause from people around me who only knew that one way of living and succeeding, but it just did not feel fulfilling to me. So moving on to 2016, where I call it my midlife crisis or awakening, whatever term you want to call it, I call it maturity, where you realize you don't get to keep blaming everybody for your past. And at some point, you become a grown-up. And you take your own happiness and mental health and life plan into your own hands. And you get to work with God and create what it is that you want life to look like for you. So I picked up a book by Brene Brown And in that book, she talked a lot about vulnerability. And, then she had another book, which was about vulnerability as a strategy for leadership. And she talked a lot about living an authentic life. And that's kind of what made me go, oh, up until this point, I've been living a people pleaser's life, not really an authentic one that is true to me and what I want to do. So I am all for being an authentic person, living your authentic life. However, the word authentic gets thrown around on social media a lot. And as it relates to creating authentic content, I really do feel as though people have taken that word wrong, and it can actually be really damaging. I am not saying that we do not need to be showing up authentically, but I am saying let's discuss what being authentic online means and how that can help grow a community and build your business and make your launches super successful. But at the same time, if you are not using that word correctly, then it can actually be more damaging. It can be the reason that you are struggling to turn followers into customers. There can be such a thing as being too relatable. And you know that you've kind of bled into, or you've blurred the lines between being authentic and vulnerable and just not being seen as someone that can help solve your community's problems. And that's what I want to talk about in today's episode. So there is an amazing book that you will hear me quote often, and I really hope that you've read it. This is just how to be in great relationship with everybody. And, whether you are employed or whether you are an entrepreneur or whether you're a young person, an older person, whatever, everybody needs to read this book, and we need to study it and we need to implement it. But it is called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Okay, it is old school. And in this book, he also explains that people are far more interested in themselves and in their own problems rather than in yours. So I just want you to remember that as we go through this, because if you are using social media, or maybe you have gone maybe you are locked in with what I call my social method, meaning you're not just building an Instagram community, you are using that to grow an email community. You are using that to build a long form content community. For me, that's done through my podcast. Other people do this on YouTube. Other people do it on both of those things. But wherever you are building your community as a business owner, the only reason people are interested in you is if you are helping them in some way. Now, that might feel, it might feel triggering. It might feel untrue. I want you just to sit with however you're feeling at the moment. Some of you, when are listening to this, you're just like, yeah, 100%. And in that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Carnegie highlights that people are far more interested in themselves and their own problems than in yours. And as a business owner, we need to remember that our audience is not there for our problems. If they are, they've placed us in the category of entertainment, like we're entertaining them only. Your audience, because you're a business owner, is following you for their problems. They're following you so that you can help solve their problems, so that you can offer solutions to their problems. Now, the challenge happens the tension happens rather, when on one hand, we're told, okay, but this is social media, storytelling content is the thing to be doing, and it really is. And that means that we need to be bringing our authenticity, our truth, our worldview, our philosophies, our unique lens to common experiences that your audience faces. And that's where your content begins to be useful to other people. Speaking of which, a book title just came to me, another book by Arnold Schwarzenegger. His book is called Be Useful. The whole philosophy of that book is that you are only in existence to be useful to other people. If you want to succeed in life, just work on becoming more useful. And it's a great book. Go and get it. But that concept comes through into our storytelling, into our content. So there have been times where I have forgotten this. And, full confession, there have been times where I blindly just slipped into sharing things that left me feeling exposed, or like I even had a bit of a vulnerability hangover. I was just like, what was the point of sharing that actually? Like, it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't lead into inquiries or sales, which is how I help people. I only help people like to a degree with the free stuff, but there's only a level that you can be helped with when you're just consuming someone's free stuff. But yeah, what was the point of sharing all of that? And so how I come to actually detect that I've slipped into, call it oversharing, call it storytelling that is not strategic. And when I say strategic, I mean in the best interest of my people. It's more self-serving, or it's always from a place of wanting to connect. And, I'm sure there are people in my audience that relate, but unless you tie your story to something that your audience is going through, and unless you share how you've been able to get yourself out of that, or if you're still in the midst of it and you're wanting to share the mess, what you are doing to support yourself in that, then that story becomes useful, but only if it is attached to your broader message. I'm always talking about your messaging. I'm always talking about your why. Like, what is the point of your business being around? You need to get really clear on that. Why should people follow you? Every story that we tell needs to be connected to that overall why and to your brand messaging. And it needs to be aimed at not just connecting and sharing empathy, but also balanced with authority. Now, too much authority and speaking at people can actually be a bad thing as well. Okay, there is a happy medium, there is a balance, but we cannot swing too far into the authenticity bucket and feel so vulnerable, feel so exposed, and become someone's entertainment, and then wonder why people aren't buying from us. And I see this all the time. People, business owners who are incredible humans, wicked smart at what they do, but there are things that people are sharing online when really they should have just phoned a friend. Call a friend, vent, tell them about it, go for a coffee. Or if you are in a business networking community, say in one of my programs, coming in there and just letting it rip, just sharing the raw truth of whatever your experience is. But it does not need to go on your Instagram grid. It does not need to make it into an email. So I did a post about this very, very recently, and I thought, how can I teach this point? Because I'm seeing a lot of this and it is affecting people's bottom line. And I did a post about it, and then I shared 20 hooks that are going to build connection with your audience, that do allow you to share strategic storytelling that serves your audience and doesn't just serve you. It's not just about you getting on and unloading and feeling better and then being like, oh, they're really going to relate to this. They understand, my audience and I, we have so much in common. What that does when you do it the wrong way, is, first of all, your content is about you and it's not about your people. That's the first thing. The second thing it does, and I touched on this, is you become a source of entertainment. Like people are watching because it's interesting or because they're nosy, and yeah, you're more so in the entertainment category, but not authority. Another thing that happens is that they may be really kind and empathetic in the comments, because I believe that people are generally, most people in the world are really, really loving and kind. And if you've built an audience on social media, you are going to have people in the comments that express that, thank you for sharing, I'm going through this too. Or they might say, I appreciate your authenticity even, or, sending you lots of love, you'll get through this. They might even say it's really lovely to see someone sharing something real for once. Like they may genuinely feel that way. And so they're writing that, but psychologically, they are more than likely feeling unsafe, not like in a danger way, but they are less inclined to want to work with you. They're less inclined to want to work with you. Why? Well, for a number of reasons. They're seeing you as a peer and not as a leader or a mentor. Another reason is that, again, because people are generally just so kind and loving, that they doubt your ability to lead them well. They doubt your capacity or your ability to follow through, or your ability to make them be a priority, because you've just come on the internet and you've just told everybody how whatever your latest challenge is, right? How overwhelmed you might be, or how tired you might be, or how whatever. Now, again, I am not saying that those parts of our human experience don't ever get to be shared, but they should only be shared if they are less self-serving and more about serving your people. What problem does that help your people solve? How are you showing them through your experience that you are someone that is capable of leading them to a solution within their own life or their business or whoever it is that you help? So those are some key questions that you can really ask yourself. And in fact, I've got a bit of a checklist. And this I find really helpful, and I know a lot of my mentees find helpful. In fact, my neurodivergent ladies, who are always so wonderful in telling me what they particularly love about my methodologies, my models, my frameworks, my coaching and my containers, is that it's really clear. Like they just know. There's no having to read between the lines. So this is a checklist that you can run through before you share your next piece of storytelling content, whether it is a yapping style of reel, which is just a talking head reel, by the way, or whether it is a carousel that converts, or just a static image with text, or an Instagram story, or a live, like whatever format you pick, an email, whatever. So before you tell the story, just run it through this. The first one is, does this help my audience understand their problem and not just mine? The next one, does it move them closer to a solution or just closer to me? The next one, am I sharing this from a scar or from an open wound? Now, bit of a metaphor there, right? So when you're sharing from your scar, you're kind of on the other side, like you're well into your healing journey. You are able to impart wisdom. You've got the gift of hindsight, right? Life or experience has been your biggest teacher, versus just speaking from the rawness of the problem. It's unprocessed, it's, I'll call it unhinged, and it's not really like you're still figuring it out. There's no purpose for anyone else to come along into the mess. You're kind of just handing your energetic pie over to someone. And again, you're not some tell-all blogger where the purpose is to entertain people in that way. You're a business owner with a brand. So the story that you tell matters, and it should matter to your people more than it just makes you feel really good. All right, the next one is, let's just say you shared your story, and not just your story, just any piece of storytelling content, something that happened to you, and no one liked it. Like it just fell flat. It was a flop. Would you still consider it worth posting? Think about that one. And the final little filtering question is, does it end with your audience thinking about themselves or thinking about you? So if the story that you're wanting to tell doesn't earn its place, okay, don't post it. If you do want those 20 hooks, maybe I can pop them I can put a link to the post. I can put a link to the post in the copy for this episode. So go and check it out. Give it a like if you would be so kind. And it's just in the caption on that post. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I know it might make some people feel a little uncomfy. I'm not sharing to make anyone feel bad or feel called out. This is just Tracy being your loving mentor. I need to tell the truth. And now that you've seen this, you can't unsee it in yourself, but also in others. So have fun with that. And definitely connect through the art of storytelling, but always remember that it needs to be in service of your audience. Donald Miller is another person that is just incredible at teaching storytelling in general for businesses and brands. So maybe go and check out some of his stuff. But when it comes to applying it on social media, that's where people get a little bit like, oh, how do I do that? Especially when you are following people that maybe aren't business owners and it seems like they're just sharing their whole life. Also, I was going to go, look at me, but now I'm just riffing here. It can, that someone is doing it really well when you feel like you know them, when you feel like you know them really well. And really, you just know pieces of them, pieces that make sense for the overall purpose, the mission of the company, the vision, the values, again, the why, the messaging, but you don't need to know absolutely everything. Otherwise, you're just never going to feel like anything is sacred. Like there are some things that are just for you. Your private life, your kids, like however you live. If it's not part of your brand story, it doesn't have to be shared. So I'll leave it there. Really keen to hear your thoughts on this. Email me back if you have thoughts or questions. Otherwise, I look forward to some engaging conversations around this topic inside of my mentorship programs and on Instagram. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.